Hello, everyone, and welcome in to episode number 28 of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. My name is Tim Sohn, and it is great to have you here tonight. Let us know where you're tuning in from around the world, and let us know what your perspective is on or connection is on cancer. Maybe you're a cancer survivor. Maybe you are maybe if someone in your family has cancer or has passed of cancer, or you have some other connection to cancer. It is so great to have you here tonight. Carol Ulker and I created this show as a safe space where cancer survivors and cancer supporters come together to share their stories and connect, as well as find resources that provide healing, hope, and resilience. My name is Tim Sohn, a 15-plus year cancer survivor and host of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, co-host of the Tim and Jim Show, and a live stream show and virtual event creator, producer, and coach. As I said before, thank you so much for joining us. Please let us know where you're tuning in from around the world. We have a global community that comes here every week, and I'm so grateful for all of you who show up. It's in the name of the show. Show up and join us every week. We so appreciate you being here. And we want this to be an interactive conversation. So we encourage you to connect with each other during the show. And we're just so grateful that you are here tonight. Before we bring on tonight's guests, I want to let you guys know that I'm looking for some help. It's important, you guys, to ask for help when you need it. And this show, I love this show. I love hosting this show, and I love all of you. But I am looking for some help with this show. I need some volunteers. One of the things about the show is this show is a very interactive show. And so I'm looking for some volunteers to help out in the comments of the show, to drop some links in the show, and to interact with people in the comments. So if any of you guys are interested in helping out with something like that, please send me a direct message and let me know. I also want you guys to know that there is a LinkedIn newsletter called Perspectives on Cancer that comes out bi-weekly. I let you guys know about upcoming shows. There's an in-person event coming up in September, the first Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer in-person event coming up September here in Pennsylvania. So stay tuned for details on that, as well as cancer resources for survivors, patients, supporters, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll drop the link in the comments for that as well. So definitely stay tuned in the comments for the link for that. But I'm excited for today's show, guys. I'm excited for today's guest because our guest is really great. She's really great. She had me on her show a while ago, and she's a really great host. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of worried because she's an amazing host. She's an amazing host. And so I'm going to bring her on the screen and let's get this conversation started. Hello, Andrea. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Tim. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored to have you here. You had me on your Cancer You Thrivers podcast. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yes. And that was such a great conversation. And I'm looking forward to our conversation tonight to talk about your sister's journey and your perspective on that and some other connections to cancer as well.
Yeah. Thank you again for having me. And the roles are reversed.
Yes. It's always great when you have two hosts on the screen together, right? It always makes for an interesting conversation.
Yes. I will try not to ask you questions.
It's okay. Oh my goodness. Yeah, but let's go over to the comments quickly. And by the way, guys, we're trying out some new technology tonight. We're trying out Restream. We we've been using StreamYard. No offense to StreamYard. We still love StreamYard, but we're trying out something new. Restream has this cool feature called Restream Pairs, which lets you stream also to your guests' social media channels. So we're actually connected to Andrea. Andrea's cancer. She has a organization called Cancer University, right, Andrea?
Yes. Yeah.
So we're connected to Cancer University's. Where are we connected to?
We're connected to my personal LinkedIn and Cancer University's Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Very cool. Very cool. So that's one of the things Restream lets you do. So let's go over to the comments and see who is here with us tonight. So Legia is here. She says, "Good evening, Andrea."
Hello. A lot of marks.
There are a lot of marks.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Yeah.
Yes. Mark Kageyama is saying, "Everyone pray for Jenny Gold." And I do want to mention Jenny Gold briefly. Jenny Gold was on the show recently, and Jenny Gold has Lyme disease and other autoimmune diseases, and she is in the hospital. So everybody please pray for Jenny Gold. She also does have a GoFundMe set up, and I'll drop that link in the comments. She does need our help. She doesn't have a caregiver anymore, and please pray for her. And if there's any way that you guys can support her, please do. She just needs our help and our prayers. So please keep her in your prayers. Mark is here from New Zealand. Hello, Mark from New Zealand. And Russ Hedge is in the house. Hello, Russ. It's so great to have you here tonight. So thank you, everyone, for being here. I thought I missed someone, but that's okay. I mean, we love you all. We do love you all.
Hello,
Even if
everyone.
I miss you. Yes, exactly. Okay, so let's start the conversation, Andrea. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So Andrea, your sister Adrienne passed from liver cancer at age 15. Could you share her story with us?
Yes, of course. So Adrienne was technically my half sister. We have the same mother and different fathers, and she never knew her father. He died before she was born in a car accident. And we were 14 years apart. So I was in high school by the time she was born. And I left Birmingham, Alabama, went to Los Angeles to go to college and stayed there. And Adrienne came out to visit me in December of 1994 for what was supposed to be a 2-week Christmas vacation. And it became a permanent stay when our mother called the day after Christmas and said, "Don't send her back. I don't want to be a mother anymore." And I didn't put it together at the time, but it was 3 days before my mother's 50th birthday. So I don't know if there was a bit of a midlife crisis, but also our mother was a prescription drug addict and very high functioning until I left for college, and slowly her world sort of fell apart. And by the time she made that phone call, she had lost her nursing license because she had gotten caught shooting up morphine at work. She refused to go to rehab, and when she said that to me, I said, "Yes, yeah, I will take Adrienne. But if you change your mind, I'm not going to give her back," because I had seen the detrimental effects that it had had on Adrienne over the last couple of years, and I was very worried about her. So I was 22, Adrienne was 8. I took over physical custody of her. And then eventually I actually did go to court in California, where we lived at the time, and sued our mother for custody and won.
Wow. So tell us more about Adrienne's journey in terms of her cancer journey.
Sure. So Adrienne had a really hard time in middle school. I mean, really bad, and to the point where she was suicidal. And I found her an amazing therapist, and it was just a rough ride. And then she got into high school and she really found her bearings. She was really getting to be okay with herself and happy with who she was. And it was so great to see. It was great to see her blossoming like that. And then 1 month after her 15th birthday, just a couple weeks before she was finishing that first year of high school in Burbank, she I came home from work and I found her on the floor in a fetal position saying she could not breathe. And the day before she was fine, but I come home and she's crying. This was a kid who never cried. And so we went to her pediatrician. He didn't like what he saw. He sent us to the ER. And it was actually in the ER that a doctor told us after one CAT scan that she had tumors in her liver and lungs. And that particular hospital did not see pediatric patients. So they put us on an ambulance and we were in Children's Hospital, Los Angeles that night. And from the time I came home, from the time we heard those words, it was about 6 hours. And I never went back to work, and she did not go back to school in person. And it was, a whirlwind. And a week later, she was doing chemotherapy. That was, 20 years ago, and her cancer journey only lasted 147 days, and it was really brutal. And to give your audience perspective, she died 2 months after my 29th birthday. So by the time I was 30, it just changed the whole course of my life.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, and sending you so much love and prayers. And Mark says, so sorry to hear that, Andrea.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so Andrea, what was your sister like, and what was your relationship like with her?
She was a great kid. She really was. It wasn't always easy. I don't want to pretend it was easy. Parenting is one of the most difficult things you can do, especially when you're not the biological mother. We definitely had to set expectations very, very early that I was her parent first and then her sister. And later I told her I hoped we could be friends. And I think a great illustration of our relationship was I had a friend who was afraid to come visit my sister in the hospital, even though she was very close to me and my sister. She waited a whole week to come visit. And when she walked in, she'd been crying, and she walks in and she just starts laughing. And we look at her and she said, "Oh, you guys are fighting. Nothing has changed." Because we were always fighting. She was 15 at that point.
Yeah,
And I think that was something that I had to learn as a parent, that if your child is fighting with you, it means that they know they're safe.
yeah,
That they know that no matter what happens or what words are said, that you still love them. And truly, we protected each other. We always had each other's back. And I, in many ways, she was the love of my life. She really was. She's the only person in my life I've ever loved unconditionally.
wow, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
And you actually wrote a book about her story, right?
I did. The book is Better Off Bald: A Life in 147 Days. Um, it is not for the faint of heart. It is a medical memoir. It gets very much into the details and complexities of going through that cancer journey. And it's written like a journal. So it's 147 days. So day one is like chapter one. And then by day three, I use Adrienne's own voice in the book. So the chapters open with quotes from her. She was a writer as well. And so I pulled quotes from her journals and emails and things like
Wow.
that. So you really get to see her point of view as the patient and also being a teenage patient, and my point of view as the caregiver and legal guardian and parent.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, everyone who are tuning in. We are here at Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. We're here with Andrea Wilson Woods having a conversation about her connections and perspectives on cancer. If my voice sounds hoarse tonight, I have a cold. And so if my energy is way down low compared to normal, that's why. So bear with me.
Oh, I
And
didn't know.
thank
I'm
you.
so sorry, Tim.
That's okay. But thank you all for being here. And thanks for bearing with me. Um, so Andrea, you were Adrienne's guardian. What did you learn going through this experience with her as her guardian and as her sister?
Well, I mentioned unconditional love. I learned how to love unconditionally, and also what it's like when you lose that person, the most important person to you in the whole world. and how devastating that really is. I learned how to be more patient. Patience is not my virtue at all. I certainly learned how to parent, and I really, especially with the cancer journey, I learned how to live. And Adrienne, and I'm not the only one who said this, so I know I'm biased, but I'm not the only one. She had so much courage and grace and dignity, and maybe most importantly, humor during her cancer journey, that there's not a single adult that I know that could have handled it better than she did. And she often handled it much better than I did. And for example, she never said, "Why me?"
Mm,
And she had a whole range of emotions, but she never felt sorry for herself. And I'm really proud of her for that. Whereas me on the inside, I was going, "Why her? Like, why her?" You know.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, she was and still is a very much a guiding light in my life.
Mm, mm. Andrea, what was your reaction like when you found out that she had cancer, and what was her reaction like?
Well, she had a biopsy, and she was coming out of her biopsy, and they led us into recovery to see her, and it was very, for an odd reason, very quiet and secluded area. And by when I say we, I mean my boyfriend John came into the picture a few years after I'd already been raising Adrienne, and he was really the only father figure she ever had. And so
Mm,
he was there, and I could not even tell her that she had cancer. I couldn't say it. He did.
mm,
And she looked at both of us and she said, "What's wrong? It's not like I'm going to die, what's next? Chemo?" And i- that was her attitude. It was like, "What do we have to do next? What's the next step?" Um, there was a point that she knew she was dying and didn't tell me, and she very much protected me. But at that, very beginning, that was only day 3. It never even really occurred to her that she could die. For me, when that surgeon came out of the biopsy and saw the pathology and told me, I had a whole, at that time, very close-knit group of friends and my boyfriend, as I mentioned, and they were all like aunts and uncles to her, and a lot of us were there, about 8 of us, and my boyfriend said something much later that I don't think made it into the book, I can't remember, but he said, "That's when I realized you didn't need me, because I wouldn't let him hug me." And I just walked away from everybody, and I curled up in this window. This was on the 7th floor of Children's Hospital where surgery used to be, and I just looked down on everybody, and it was a neighborhood we had lived in previously, and I was just watching people, and it turns out I was in that window for an hour. Felt like minutes. And so, for me, I very much went inside myself. I have a hard time asking for help, and it
mm.
looks like you're gonna be able to get help with the podcast, by the way.
Yeah, I saw Mark was offering in the comments.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Awesome. Yes. And you were encouraging me to ask for help the other
I
day. So
was,
thank you for
see?
that. I'm not one that asks for help easily either. So thanks for the encouragement. And thank you for sharing all of that. Definitely. Yeah, let's go over to the comments for a minute. Peter Clark is here. Hello, Peter. Thanks for being here. He said, "Cheers, Tim Stone. Another great conversation. Thanks for being open, Andrea. Much respect." Peter Clark is amazing. Do you know Peter Clark, Andrea?
I don't think so. You're welcome, Peter.
Peter has a show himself. You should connect with him. He has such a heart. He has a huge heart, and he has amazing heart-centered guests on his show. Definitely connect with him on LinkedIn.
Okay.
He showed up on the end of one. I think it's the 3rd episode of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. He sent me a direct message. He said, "Hey Tim, could I come on your show like now, like live?"
I love it.
After
Good for you.
Kara had given her connection and perspectives on cancer, he came on, and yeah, he definitely connect with Peter. He's amazing. Um, hey, James Patron. James is a former guest on the show. Welcome, James. Inger says, I can so relate with you what you're saying about going inside yourself, Andrea.
Yeah.
Lakia says, all love and support for you, Andrea. We are all in this together.
Well, thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. You are all amazing. So Andrea, you had told me that you had 3 premonitions about Adrienne that came true. Can you share those with us?
Yes. So the first one I had was in my early 20s, I started having this very irrational fear of cancer, of getting cancer. And it was so irrational, I didn't tell anybody about it. And then I got this little flyer in the mail from an organization you know very well, from the Leukemia Lymphoma Society.
Yeah.
And it was run a marathon for cancer, and cancer research. And for whatever reason, I thought, okay, well, that will just quash this ridiculous fear that I have. And so I joined their team and training program. And I should really say that I am not a runner. I mean, at all. I'm a terrible runner. I'm a fast walker, bad runner. But, I saw it as a challenge physically, but I really thought that mentally and emotionally it would get rid of this weird fear that I had. And actually, when Adrienne was diagnosed, I was 3 weeks away from doing the marathon, and which I ended up not doing. I did it the following year after she died. So that was one. And I didn't realize that irrational fear started after I got custody of her. So that was the first one. The second one is I always knew I would outlive Adrienne, always, from the moment she was born. And I was one of the very first people to hold her when she was born. And I knew it, I mean, to my core, but I really genuinely thought she would be in her 50s and I would be in my 70s, you know. And then the third one actually happened during her cancer journey. I found out that she wanted to go to college at my alma mater, USC in Los Angeles, which I did not want, by the way. I had higher expectations for her. And anyway, so I know the campus incredibly well. I know it like the back of my hand. And the other thing is, Adrienne was one of those kids, and I think we all fall into one category or the other. I'm in the other, where she had pretty much looked the same from the time she was 18 months old. I mean, if you saw her baby pictures, you would know without a doubt it was her. And she's 15. And I remember sitting in my office one night after she had gone to bed, and I just kept trying to picture her walking on campus, a campus that I knew so well, a campus that she had been on many, many times. And I kept trying to picture her, okay, 18 years old, walking on campus. What does that look like? And I describe it in the book. It was like a puzzle piece, 1,000 pieces that I could not put together. And it shouldn't have been difficult. And that's when I knew deep, deep down, but I could not let it come to the surface, that she wasn't going to make it. And it sucks because she was an incredible student, honor student, 4.0 GPA, and she had always wanted to go to college. And I think that's one of the things that she should not have missed. It was really important to her.
Yeah. Let's show Andrea lots of love in the comments. Let's see all those heart emojis. And
oh, you're so sweet.
Here, Andrea, I have a puff tissue for you. I brought the puffs. Always have puffs on hand.
Okay, I love it.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
They all came true. And I didn't tell anybody about them. True. But they all came true.
Wow. Now I'm going to need the puffs. All right. Let me go to the comments. Inger is sending you much love and hugs.
I love that you can put the comments on the screen. I don't think you can do that in StreamYard, can you?
You can, yeah.
Oh, okay. I love that. That's cool.
Yeah. Ellen is here. Hello, Ellen. Everybody's chatting. It's like a water cooler here at the cancer show. Yes. Ellen says, greetings. As usual, I am late to the gate. Hey, we'll take you whenever you get here. No late arrivals.
That's right.
Yeah, definitely.
Always watch it again.
Definitely. Bill Bradford is here. Bill, are you still in San Diego? You were in San Diego the other day. Are you still there. Bill lives in Pittsburgh, but he travels for his job all over the place. So thanks for being here. And Kenny D, thanks for being here. Melody, thanks for being here. Melody is sending love and energy hugs to you. And Kenny says, Andrea, you are such a gem of a lady, a human being, and a friend of mine, and to millions who shares her goodness with others for the betterment of humankind.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. You have lots of support going on, Andrea.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So I know you also wanted to talk about your aunt who had metastatic breast cancer. Do you want to share her story with us,
Yeah, yeah. I
Andrea?
mean, in addition to my sister,
Unless there's anything
I
you want to say about your sister before we move on.
no, that's fine. In addition to her, I've had 5 other family members die from every side of my family for a total of 5 different cancers. So there's been liver, lung, breast, bone, and head and neck. And I feel like I'm sort of surrounded by it. My aunt had survived her first bout with cancer. I think it was in her late 50s, early 60s. I wasn't living in Alabama at the time. And I had just moved back from I lived in Los Angeles all of my adult life. I had moved back to Birmingham, and I was out, in the sticks in the middle of nowhere. I took my cousin's daughter out for this yoga retreat, like day-long yoga retreat, and that's when I found out that my aunt, who is the oldest of all the kids, was in the hospital with metastatic breast cancer. And for whatever reason, I decided to go visit her on my way home because she was in the nearest decent sized hospital was about 45 minutes away, but it was on my way home. And for your audience to kind of understand, it was really important that my mother not find out where I was. My mother and I do not have a relationship. It ended when I sued for custody, but it also other things have happened. You'll have to read the book. And one of the things about me moving back here that was a concern to a lot of people was what happens if your mother shows up. And so it was a little bit of a strange risk. But anyway, I decided to go visit my aunt. I just had this intuition, this calling. You have to go see her. I walk in, and I have never in my life seen one person hooked up to so many different machines. And there was a pump pumping water out of her lungs. I mean, it was awful. And I went to the desk and I said, what is the plan? I introduced myself. What is the plan here for my aunt? And this is what this person said to me. And this is why you need an advocate. And this is why you need an advance directive. It's so important. They said, oh, well, we're going to transfer her to a nursing home. And I was like, she's dying. She is clearly dying. And she said,
Yeah.
"Pff," and she said Medicare is gonna pay for it. Straight face, didn't care. So I went back to the room. I had this nurse come in, um, and different nurse. She said, "You seem to really care, and you realize how dire the situation is. I need to show you something." And my aunt is still kind of out of it, not awake, and she pulls back the blouse, or the hospital gown, and the tumors were coming through my aunt's skin.
Oh,
She had
wow.
tumors in her breast, her lungs, her liver, and her bones. But she did not have an advance directive, so she was not on hospice care. She was not getting palliative care, so she actually did eventually wake up in horrific pain, and they had locked out her medication, and she was still able to communicate. Her brain was still there, so we were writing on a piece of notebook. And keep in mind, I had not spoken or seen my aunt in over a decade either because of what happened with my mother. But I told her, I explained the situation. I said, look, you need to name someone as your power of attorney. It's the only way to get you into hospice, and we need to do it now. And we, through writing on a notebook, had such a wonderful conversation about what she wanted. And she said, I want my sisters. And she wanted my mom and my cousin's mother, my other aunt, to be there with her. So I'm texting my cousin to make this work, but I'm also trying to make sure I'm not there when my mother shows up. But she wanted her sisters, and the three of them had not been in a room together probably in 2 decades easily. There was always some kind of
Wow.
family spat going on that was stupid. And I said, "Okay, I'm gonna bring your sisters here." And my aunt was incredibly religious, but I just saw so much fear in her eyes. And I asked her, I said, "What are you scared of? You've told me my whole life about heaven. Look
Yeah.
who's waiting for you." And I said, "Your parents are waiting for you," because my grandparents have been gone a long time. I said, "Your brother's waiting for you." The only
Yeah.
boy in the family, the youngest, my uncle had died in his early 50s. And I said, "And Adrienne is waiting for you." And I told her, I said, "Your sisters are coming." And I said, "But at this point is really your decision if you want to leave." Because I could see how hard she was fighting it. And I saw
Yeah.
the same thing with my sister. I leave. Thankfully, I don't see my mother. My cousin shows up with her mother and my mother. They walk in, and my aunt was at total peace, they said. And they made sure she got on hospice immediately. And she died that night in her sleep peacefully. That
Oh,
night.
wow.
And so again, I hope people understand how important it is to have an advocate and to
Yeah.
have that power of attorney when you can't speak for yourself. Um, it's just so crucial. It really, really is. But
Yeah.
I'm really happy that ultimately the sisters were reunited. That's what she wanted,
Yeah.
and that she, died, in peace.
Yeah.
But that hospital death could have been avoided. Could have been.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Mark says, Andrea, your courage is otherworldly.
I've never heard that before, but I'll take it. Thank you.
And Ashok. Oh, thanks for being here, Ashok. I'm trying to find your comment. Where are you, Ashok? Ashok always has. Oh, love doesn't stop when we lose someone.
Amen. No, it
Amen.
does not.
Yeah. And Ellen said, unless you're at Newark Airport or late is the new normal. I don't remember what that was related to, but thanks for that, Ellen. Oh
I
my
hate the
goodness.
Newark airport, by the way. Like, it's horrible. Been there.
Yeah.
Don't need to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. So Andrea, you have created two entities. You've created a nonprofit and a for-profit.
Right.
Why don't you talk a little bit about your nonprofit organization first, and just kind of the story of why it was created and what its purpose is and what it does.
Yeah. So a year after Adrian died, I was very suicidal. I was very much drowning in my grief, and I needed a way to channel it. And I thought about creating an organization, but then I realized how hard that was going to be. And so I thought I'll just volunteer. So I went to the largest liver disease nonprofit in the US. They had a very active LA chapter, spoke to the head of the LA chapter. And I had noticed that they didn't have anything about liver cancer on their website, which I thought was kind of odd for what they did. Liver cancer being the most serious of all liver diseases. And they did not want to have anything to do with it. They had no interest whatsoever. And I stressed that I was going to volunteer. I wouldn't charge anything, that I had a background as a writer, and I'm a very creative person. I just want to help. And they just wouldn't do it. And so I spent probably another week or so really looking to see, is there any other organization in the US doing anything in primary liver cancer, specifically hepatocellular carcinoma? And there wasn't. And there's this great quote by Lily Tomlin where she says, "I thought somebody should do something about that. And then I realized I'm that somebody." And that's exactly what happened. I realized,
That's a
wow,
great quote.
yeah, I was like, I'm that somebody. I got to do it. So I founded Blue Faery, the Adrienne Wilson Liver Cancer Association, And Blue Faery's mission is to prevent, treat, and cure primary liver cancer, specifically hepatocellular carcinoma, which is also called HCC, through research, education, and advocacy. And we have many different programs. You can learn more about us at Blue Faery, BLUEFAERY.org. Website getting updated soon, but I think the current one is still live. And the reason we're called Blue Faery, I'll address that because people often ask, is Adrienne's favorite color was blue. And when I finally allowed her to dye her hair when she was 14, she dyed it red, blue, purple. But when she was diagnosed, she had blue hair and she always wore blue nail polish. She loved fairies. And when I was trying to come up with a name for the organization, I knew I wanted liver cancer in the name because you want people to know what you do. And I wanted her name in the organization's title because it's in memory and honor of her. But I did feel like there was something missing from a marketing and branding perspective. So I sent out an email to all of those people that were like her aunts and uncles who had been there through her entire cancer journey. And I said, I'm really struggling with the name here. Can you help me out? And every person came back with some version of Blue Faery. And it was right there in front of my face the whole time. And there was this really great picture on the website where this is when she was sick. She had gotten a blue wig to maintain her look. And she was wearing these beautiful blue butterfly wings that she had bought. And she looked like a fairy. I mean, we called her our fairy that summer. And especially with her, incredibly pale skin. And so that's why the organization is called Blue Faery. And Faery is spelled with an E because that's the way she liked it.
Wow. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Ashok says, amazing you turned tragedy into hope.
Oh, thank you. We're going to be 20. Can an organization have an age? Yeah, I guess so. It'll
Absolutely.
be 20 years in December. 20 years.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Do you have plans for it?
I was just thinking this past weekend, I was like, we really need to do something. 20 is kind of a big one.
Totally. Yes.
We need to do something.
Yes.
And unfortunately, liver cancer is one of the very few cancers in the U.S. that has risen kind of nonstop since Adrienne died.
Oh, wow. Yeah. All the more important for you to have your organization. Yeah. So tell us about your Cancer University.
Yeah, Cancer University, as we like to call it, Cancer U.
Yeah.
It's a for-profit, as you said, social impact health tech startup. And I'm the co-founder and CEO. I did not want to do another organization and found it technically by myself. So I have a co-founder who has a very different skill set. Strongly recommend that. Always find people with complementary skill sets. And Cancer U is an online platform. It's for both cancer patients and caregivers to educate, empower, and engage them to become advocates for their cancer care, to improve outcomes, to lower stress, and reduce cost. And it really came out of a need that I was seeing with my nonprofit and other advocacy groups, that there was sort of a piece that was missing. And so we have courses, we have community, and we have coaching. And you can learn more at cancer.university, which you already have in the comments. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. That is awesome. That's so cool that you've taken all of this that you've gone through, and you're really making an impact in the world through your nonprofit and your for-profit, and educating people and, making that impact through both organizations and your book.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah. Let's go to the comments one more time. Stefan Kaplan is here. Whoa, that's a big comment. Thank you, Stefan.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It says, hi, you guys need to stop apologizing for being late. Whenever you show up, that's wonderful. He says, hey, Tim and Andrea, sorry for being late. I am actually dealing with a dear friend. Yeah, sending you lots of love, Stefan, who is losing his battle with liver cancer. Going to be with him later this week. I am thankful, and my heart is warmed by Andrea's spirit and beauty during doing so much with whatever the rest of the comment says. Thank you for your very long comment.
We have a lot of resources on our website. We also have a community, so I highly recommend it. The community is very active and incredibly supportive of each other. So if you go to bluefairy.org, you can find all of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, sending you lots of love, and to him, lots of prayers for sure. Yeah, thank you so much for being here tonight, Andrea. Is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap up the show? This has been great having you here, and you sharing your sister's story and your aunt's story, and all the good that you're doing in the world.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Tim, and also for putting all the links in the comments.
Of course.
I do want to address something that you asked me during our pre-interview.
Yes.
You asked me about the heaviness of doing this work,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I'm glad
And
you brought that up.
yeah, and I've thought a lot about it. I did a LinkedIn post about it. I told you it's probably going to be the topic of my speech that I'm giving next month in June, or next month. Yeah, next month's June. Next month in Paris, which that part's fun too. And when you do this work as an advocate, you can't escape the heaviness. I mean, it's there. You have to sort of embrace it, and you have to protect yourself. And you asked me about self-care.
Yeah.
And I do a lot more self-care, certainly than I ever did as a parent, but just a lot more that includes daily rituals. So some of my daily rituals include journaling, meditation, chanting, reading. Those are very important. And the other thing, and that I think is really hard if you're a giver and you want to help people, is you actually have to set boundaries and protect your time. And that's not
Yes.
easy to do. So I now do my very best to only have meetings 3 days a week. If you get a link to my calendar, you will see there's no availability on 2 days. I do my best not to check email in the mornings, because that's a rabbit hole that doesn't help me at all. And if people get mad, who cares? And a recent decision I've made is that I'm going to start dedicating my weekends to writing, because I'm working on my next book, very early stages, but I'm not giving it enough time and attention. And writing for me is even when I'm writing about heavy stuff, it's not as heavy, and it's very rewarding, and I really enjoy doing it. So the heaviness is there. I mean, it really is, and it's not easy, and it is something that you should be aware of if you go into this work.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. We did talk about that the other day, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, whether you're doing a show, or doesn't necessarily have to be a show, whether you have a profession around something that's heavy around cancer or
Healthcare. Yeah.
healthcare,
Yeah.
another related career. Yeah, it's definitely important to find a way, some kind of outlet, right?
Right.
To lighten up somewhere,
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah. And there's a great book, I wish someone had told me about it years ago, called Boundaries. I can't think of the author's name, but that is the name of the book, Boundaries. And it is such a great book. And it goes into all different kinds of boundaries, with your children, with your spouse, but in your career as well, and with
Yeah.
friends. And it's really, really valuable. And people might get upset, but at the end of the day, they usually respect you for having boundaries.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's a really incredible audience you have here. It's awesome.
Thank you. I am grateful for all of them, from all parts of the planet. All right, I'm going to whiff you gently to the green room. If you can hang
Okay.
out for a few minutes, cool. If not, no
Bye.
worries.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. All right. Thank you again to Andrea. She was an amazing guest. Yeah. So a reminder, if anyone would like to volunteer to help out with the show, looking for a few volunteer helpers, feel free to reach out to me if you would like to do that. Also, a reminder to subscribe to the LinkedIn newsletter. I'm so grateful to all of you who we already have 600 something subscribers to the newsletter and growing. Also, just a reminder that the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Man and Woman of the Year philanthropic competition is still going on for 2 more weeks. So if you guys are interested in donating to that, the link is down below. I'll also drop it in the comments in just a few minutes. If you don't want to remember all of that, if you go to donations.perspectivesoncancer.com, that's a little easier to remember. And we've already raised over $10,000. Our goal is $15,000. So we have 2 more weeks to raise it, and I know we're going to do it. So thank you to all who have already donated or who have helped with the 24-hour live stream in March or the 12-hour live stream in April. You all are amazing, just amazing. Next week's guest is Terry Tomoff. So we're looking forward to having her next week. And thank you all for bearing with my hoarse voice tonight, because it's barely functioning at this point. So thank you all. We are going to go out of the show like we come in, and have a wonderful rest of your week. This has been an episode of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, and have a great week, y'all. Bye.